I feel better prepared now to read and talk. 2 viewers. Who's here? Sound off. Wow. We got a lot of new followers last night. For anyone who's watching this live or after the fact, thank you for subscribing and watching last night if you watched. Okay, I got my coffee here. It's really still hot. Get ready for a lot of that. This is a good mic. It's going to pick up everything. Hopefully it's not all echoey. I don't even know when to start, to be honest. Did you make a lot of coffee? I did. Net of the Dead. There's plenty of coffee. I have so much. Go ahead and grab yourself a cup. Yeah, I don't know when to really start reading. I imagine I'll start in a second. The thing is 9 pages, double spaced, with really large font. I'm getting ready to leave for work. I'll listen in the car. Fuck yeah. That's what I wanted. I wanted this to be something you listen to or watch while you're getting ready for work. And Ellen Bodker, I'm surprised that you don't work from home. How's the audio sounding to everybody? Is there a slight... Oh, my neighbor's dogs are barking. I feel like there's a little bit of a delay on my end. I don't know. Makes me sound like I'm really slow and sluggish. Maybe I'm in my head. Maybe I haven't had my coffee yet. So anyway, this is the Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allen Poe. It was written in 1847. There's definitely a little delay that's throwing me off. I don't know. Sounding good? Alright, yeah, I'm all in my head. Okay. So I like this story. I read it first when I was in high school. I'm just going to take off my... Henchman Hours. What's up, Henchman Hours? Good morning. Welcome to Reading Pager Presents The Cask of Amontillado. I'm going to go ahead and take my headphones off. It's just easier for me. Throwing me off right now. Too early. What's everybody drinking? What's their coffee blend this morning? Me, I got some Sprouts breakfast blend. Pre-ground at the store. Foolishly got pre-ground. I always try to get whole bean. It's fun. That sound is just another layer. That grinding sound is just another layer to wake me up. So anyway, I like this story. I read it in high school. It's if you didn't listen to the show last night, I called it Freaky Frasier because it's about wine snobs and just like gatekeeping. I think it's really funny. Sounds like I'm drinking some Sprouts coffee. You are drinking some Sprouts coffee. Catalina. Ellen Bacher, what's your favorite Catalina drink? That cold brew there is the most hyper-caffeinated thing in the entire city. Okay. We got some people here. Why don't I go ahead and just get started reading this thing? And I'll be taking some breaks. I'll probably talk about this story as I go on. Actually, before I start, I wanted to talk about why I wanted to read this aloud. I like reading aloud. I think reading aloud is a good way to ensure that you are hearing and processing the story. I feel like whenever I read to myself, it makes it really easy for me to disassociate and zone out while I'm reading, and feels more like I'm just going through the motion. Like I'm reading the words, but I'm not processing them. I'm not thinking about them. When I say them out loud and I actually read them as if I'm reading before an audience, reading before a classroom or a grown-up story time kind of thing, then I know I'm keeping the story in my head. And a good example of this is Thomas Pynchon. His syntax is really pretty complicated. And so Mason and Dixon is a novel of his that I really want to read out loud because I've tried reading it to myself and it is very difficult. But, Capo Bustelo. Ooh! Bustelo's good. You get the cold brew, the Japanese slow drip. Gonna have to try the Japanese slow drip sometime. Alright. Here we go. Cask of Amontillado. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as I best could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged. This was a point definitely settled, but the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. Ah, fuck! Sorry. Already scared, huh? I sit weird and hit the seat thing. It was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my end to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my to smile now was at the thought of his immolation. Are there typos in this? Old stories always freak me out because maybe it's typos and maybe that's just how they wrote. I haven't read this since high school. I skimmed it when I printed it out. Anyway. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared, he prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity, to practice imposture upon the British and the Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmary, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack. But in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. The fucking hipster douchebag. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk, one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season, that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I have received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts." "How?" said he. "Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible! And in the middle of the carnival." "I have my doubts," I replied, "and I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain." "Amontillado." "I have my doubts." "Amontillado, and I must satisfy them." "Amontillado." "As you are engaged, I am on my way to Lucrezi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me, Lucrezi cannot tell Amontillado from sherry. And I'm not going to drink any fucking Merlot. And yet some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own. Come, let us go. Whither? To your vaults, my friend? No, I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement. Lucrezi, I have no engagement. Come, my friend. No, it is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with nitre. Let us go, nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado, you have been imposed upon, and as for Lucrezi, he cannot distinguish sherry from Amontillado. Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm, and putting on a mask of black silk and drawing a roquelaire closely about my person, that's a little cloak, I had to look it up, I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. There were no attendants at home, They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I had told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I took from the sconces 2 flambeaux, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length to the foot of the descent, and stood together upon the damp ground of the catacombs of the Montresors. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. "The pipe," he said. "It is farther on," said I, "but observe the white webwork which gleams from these cavern walls." He turned towards me, and looked into my eyes with 2 filmy orms that distilled the rheum of intoxication. "Nitra?" he asked at length. "Nitra," I replied. "How long have you had that cough?" Well, I can either cough or I can read it phonetically. Phonetically, it's ugh, 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 ugh. But, I could cough like... He's coughing. My poor friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. "It is nothing," he said at last. "Come," I said with decision, "we will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy as once I was. You are a man to be missed. For me it is no matter. We will go back. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lucrece." "Enough," he said. "The cough's a mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough." Geez, when is this? 2020? True, I replied, and, indeed, I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily, but you should use all proper caution. A draught of this Medoc? Medic? A draught of this medic will defend us from the damps. Here, I knocked off the neck of a bottle which I drew from a long row of its fellows that lay upon the mold. Okay, a Medoc must be a bottle of wine. "Drink," I said, presenting him the wine. He raised it to his lips with a leer. He paused and nodded to me familiarly, while his bells jingled. "I drink," he said, "to the buried that repose around us, and I to your long life." He again took my arm, and we proceeded. "These vaults," he said, "are extensive." "The Montresors," I replied, "were a great and numerous family." "I forget your arms. A huge human foot d'or and a field azure. The foot crushes a serpent rampant, whose fangs are embedded in the heel." "And the motto?" "Nemo me impune lacessit." "Good," he said. The wine sparkled in his eyes, and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the Medoc. We had passed through long walls of piled skeletons with casks and puncheons intermingling into the inmost recesses of the catacombs. I paused again, and this time I made bold to seize Fortunato by an arm above the elbow. Now I'm taking a short little break here because when this was written, I imagine whoever was reading this story would know Latin. And so I want to look up what that motto in the coat of arms says. It means, "No one harasses me with impunity." That's pretty funny. Okay. "The Nitra," I said. "See, it increases. It hangs like moss upon the vaults. We are below the river's bed. The drops of moisture trickle among the bones. Come, we will go back ere it is too late. Your cough, it is nothing," he said. "Let us go on. But first, another draught of the Medoc." I broke and reached him a flagon of de Grave. He emptied it at a breath. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. He laughed and threw the bottle upwards with a gesticulation I did not understand. I looked at him in surprise. He repeated the movement, a grotesque one. Something like that, I imagine. "You do not comprehend," he said. "Not I replied. "Then you are not of the Brotherhood." "How? You are not of the Masons." Yes, I said, yes. You? Impossible. A mason? A mason, I replied. A sign, he said. A sign! It is this, I answered, producing from beneath the folds of my roquelaire a trowel. You jest, he exclaimed, recoiling a few paces. But let us proceed to the Amontillado. Be it so, I said, replacing the tool beneath the cloak and again offering him my arm. Okay, so these are two Freemasons, or at least one's a Freemason, one just has a trowel, Montresor. He leaned upon it heavily. We continued our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and descending again, arrived at a deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeaux rather to glow than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt there appeared another less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains piled to the vault overhead in the fashion of the great catacombs of Bowie. 3 sides of this interior crypt were still ornamented in this manner. From the fourth side the bones had been thrown down and lay promiscuously upon the earth, forming at one point a mound of some size. Within the wall thus exposed by the displacing of the bones, we perceived a still interior crypt or recess, in depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7. It seemed to have been constructed for no especial use within itself, but formed merely the interval between 2 of the colossal supports of the roof of the catacombs, and was backed by one of their circumscribing walls of solid granite. It was in vain that Fortunato, uplifting his dull torch, endeavored to pry into the depth of the recess. Its termination the feeble light did not enable us to see. "Proceed," I said. "Herein is the Amontillado. As for Lucrece—" "He is an ignoramus," interrupted my friend, as he stepped unsteadily forward, while I followed immediately at his heels. Ugh. Sorry, y'all, I'm parched. In niche, and finding in an instant he had reached the extremity of the niche, and finding his progress arrested by the rock, stood stupidly bewildered. A moment more, and I had fettered him to the granite. and its surface were 2 iron staples, distant from each other about 2 feet horizontally. From one of these depended a short chain, from the other a padlock. Throwing the links about his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was much too astounded to resist. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. "Pass your hand," I said, "over the wall. You cannot help feeling the nitre. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return." "No? Then I must positively leave you, but I must first render you all the little attentions in my power." "The Amontillado!" ejaculated my friend, not yet recovered from his astonishment. Big laugh in high school when we had to read that line. Big laugh. "True," I replied, "the Amontillado." As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones of which I have before spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With these materials, and with the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. I had scarcely laid the first tier of the masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in a great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had of this was a low, moaning cry from the depths of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. There was then a long and obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, and the third, and the fourth, and then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which, that I might hearken to it with the more satisfaction, I ceased my labors and sat down upon the bones. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed the trowel and finished without interruption the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th tier. The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast. I again paused, and holding the flambeau over the mason-work, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud and shrill screams, bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form, seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated, I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope with it about the recess, but the thought of an instant reassured me. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed. I aided. I surpassed them in volume and in strength. I did this, and the clamorer grew still. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position. But now there came from out the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing as that of the noble Fortunato. The voice said, "Ha ha ha! A very good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about it at the palazzo. Over our wine." "The Amontillado," I said. Yes, the Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will they not be awaiting us at the palazzo, the Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone. Yes, I said. Let us be gone. For the love of God, Montresor. Yes, I said. For the love of God. But to these words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud, "Fortunato!" No answer. I called again, "Fortunato!" No answer still. I thrust the torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. My heart grew sick. It was the dampness of the catacombs that made it so. I hastened to make an end of my labor. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Against the new masonry I re-erected the old rampart of bones. For a half of a century no mortal has disturbed them. In pace requiescat, which I believe is rest in peace. Alright, that's the story, man. Sun is really hitting my face. Learning a lot about how the placement of this setup kind of sucks ass. Gonna have to move some stuff around. Who else here? Who else still here? Did y'all like the story? Everybody have a good time? Everyone have good vibes on that story? Did I do a good job? That's what happens. That's what happens when you hang out with people who like wine. Sommeliers, they do this shit all the time. Thank you, Henchman Hours. I appreciate that. I want to do more readings on this stream, so this was a test to see how doable it was. And I'm learning that I need to move. Room also gets kind of hot with the sun just like coming in. I'm a little toasty. I'm a little sweaty. Buried alive by the sun, feeling like that. Yeah. Brava. Thank you. You spit coffee on your... Oh, no. At what part? Was it when I said the word ejaculated? Is that when you did spit take? Anyway, I think that story is really funny. It's never, unless I missed something, it's never really clarified why Montresor hates Fortunato so much. I imagine since their nobility, he may have besmirched his honor with like some bullshit. From what I understand, it was like he, I heard some theory that he like had a bottle of wine that Montresor was like, "You don't deserve that wine." But he says he knows his Italian wine. He doesn't know art. Maybe it was like some art thing. Maybe he just like hated his art that he hung up. Sounded great. I'm at a red light. Well, get home safe, or get to work safe. I hope everyone has a really good day. I don't think I can vamp for 30 minutes. I don't think I can stretch. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. This was fun. This was a good one. I had a good time. Going to talk to my roommate, see if I was too loud. And I know who everybody but Henchman Hours is, so I'm going to text all y'all and find out what y'all thought about this. And get some notes. Because I want to read Moby Dick on stream. Alright, please do it again. Yeah, I will. I don't know when. I'll figure it out. Waking up in the morning to do this kind of sucks ass. Oh, what's up, Raul? Thank you so much. You did such a good job last night. Please watch last night's Twitch stream to see Raul Minjavar. Man, he kicked ass. We had so much fun on that stream. It was one of those episodes where you look up and it's like, oh shit, time to go. Alright, everyone. Have a good Tuesday. Don't do anything stupid. Make good decisions.